Welcome to the third podcast for Ozball Villains. I'll be going through the A-League game week 6 and 7, and then we'll go through some fantasy and tipping as always. We'll then go to Asia for a little season review, recap of Japan, the J-Leagues, J-League 1, 2 and 3, as well as some cup competitions and other little stats. And then we'll also do South Korea, K1 and K2, as well as the cups, just a little review of the season. And also last week, the final for the Singapore Cup, which we'll go through as well. Let's get into it. Okay, let's start with game week 6 from the A-League from early December. Now, I didn't watch too many of these games, to be honest. I was actually travelling to Sydney to watch a couple of matches, so I didn't get a chance to watch many live games. Did see the highlights and stats and everything else, of course. So, first game for that week was Brisbane Roar 2, Western Sydney Wanderers 2. So the Roar getting off to a great start, scoring 2 early goals within 15 minutes. Miljuznic and Hingert on the score sheet. And then the Wanderers pegged them back with a late goal from Antonsen to make it 2-2. Milanovic also scoring before that. And then the Roar actually had a late disallowed goal for offside, which I think was a fair call. So unlucky for the Roar there right at the end. That would have been a great win against the undefeated Wanderers at the time. Nevertheless, 2-2, a fair result. The Roar 8 shots on goal to the Wanderers 6 and a bit more possession. So it seemed like a great match. I think, as I said, the Roar playing really well this season. Wanderers 2, of course, especially at home. So I think that's a fair result, 2-2. So a good start to that game week. Then we had Western United 0, Wellington Phoenix 1. A late goal by Ben Old being the difference. The 80th minute for the Phoenix. Unsurprising. Phoenix off to a flying start as well. Disappointing by Western United. Again, it is expected. They have not started off well at all this season. First game they did win, but since then, nothing. So I'm not surprised by that result, especially down in Ballarat. 2,000 fans there. But yeah, easy win for the Phoenix. Actually, I think it was a pretty even game based on the stats, though. 20 attempts by United, 15 to the Phoenix. So another win for the Phoenix. They off to a great start. Now, then it was Sydney FC 3, Perth Glory 2. I went to this match, actually. I was sitting in the away end with a very few, 3 or 4 or 5 Glory fans. I think a few more were there, but they weren't in the away end. Not a great day weather-wise, and the game was halted for like an hour during half-time because of the little lightning storm. But anyway, Sydney FC getting the job done there, scoring 2 goals before half-time, Lolly and Mack. Taggart pulling one back, and then an own goal by Shushnia to make it 3-1, and then Bazana getting one late to make it 3-2 for a nervy ending. But first half it was all Sydney, well, to be honest, the whole game, but especially the first half, so I did expect that to be an easy Sydney FC win, especially from the start. Perth, especially away from home, I think it's one win in the last 25, if I remember seeing that correctly. 25 games away from home, just one win. I mean, it's always hard with them, with the distance, time zone, everything like that. They've always struggled away from home. But if you're going to struggle away from home, they're going to have to make HBF Park a fortress to make up for that. If they're going to lose every away game, they're going to have to win every home game. So yeah, Sydney FC dominating in that one. And the next day, I went to this one as well up in Gosford. Central Coast Mariners 2, Melbourne Victory 2. I was sitting in the weigh-in with the Victory fans. Decent turnout. There were maybe 80 or so of them down in that corner near the palm trees. My first time visiting this stadium, so I was very happy to be there. Always seeing this stadium on the TV for the last, I don't know how long, 20 years or so. For the palm trees, the sauce bottles, one of the more famous grounds in Australian football. So I was happy to finally get there. Despite the early goal by the Mariners from Quoll, from a mistake there by Miranda, I think it was, Fornaroli getting one back with, the goal of the season, as many people are saying, which is hard to disagree with. It's on the other corner from our end, but I could tell from there it was an amazing goal. And then Volupele with a decent one too in front of us. 2-1, and then a late-ish goal for Torres from the penalty spot to make it 2-2. I think fair result. Mariners were probably better overall, especially in the second half. I think we were a bit better in the first half, the Victory. But yeah, the Mariners now finding some form, which was expected. I knew they'd get off to a slow start. A lot of high turnover of players, manager. So we will see them start to get a few more results in the next few weeks. We'll check the fixtures later on, but I do expect them to start creeping up the table. And Newcastle Jets 0, Melbourne City 2 in the last game on Sunday. I would have tried to have gotten to that match, but it was at 5 p.m. where the Mariners game finished at 5, Gosford to Newcastle. I don't think you can make it in 1 minute, so just had to watch the highlights for that on the train back to Sydney. Melbourne City with Mazzeo and McLaren to make it 2-0. I think they dominated this game. Another disappointing result by Newcastle. It was all City again, also finding a bit of form. Still not convinced, but again, early days. They will pick themselves up eventually and get to the finals. But the match of the round was the Monday night one. Macarthur FC 4, Adelaide United 3. Crazy game. Germain scoring early, cancelled out by Clough. Then Miller getting one back for Macarthur. And then it was 2-2 before half-time by Valina. Then Zach Clough making it 2-3. I did think Adelaide had this. I mean, there seemed to always be late goals in Macarthur games, both scoring and conceding. Remember the City game? Even Victory scored a late one against them. This time it was Macarthur who got 2 late goals in the 82nd and 84th minute with Holman and Davila. So a fantastic result for them. It was a great game to watch. One of the classic A-League games, which we love seeing. And then on Monday night, which is a bit different, a good advertisement for Monday night. I don't know if that had any effect on it, whether it was playing on Saturday or Sunday, if it would have been the same result. But a good little advertisement if we end up going down that route in the future, especially with a few more teams coming in. I know we can squeeze in, obviously, 8, 10, 12 games in a week, and they do it in many other leagues around the world. Actually, I think there's a few Monday night games in England. But we're interesting to see if we get to that one day, but this was a good advertisement for it. 4-3 Macarthur and Adelaide. Move on to the next week, which is just this weekend. Central Coast Mariners 4, Western United 0. So as I was saying, I know I'm doing these 2 weeks in a row, but Mariners back in form. Hall, Kaltak, Tullio and Quoll getting on the score sheet. Western United again with another loss. Dominant display by the Mariners as expected now with their form. They are creeping up the table. I'll check out the table soon after we recap these games. But another win for the Mariners. Then it was Perth Glory 1, Melbourne City 2. Story of the penalties in the first half. Khalifi missing and Arslan scoring. Taggart did pull one back though, so it was 1-1 at half time. Could have easily been other way around though. And then Leckie scoring back and scoring already to give it a 2-1 win to City. So I was saying about Perth needing to win at home, and they've now lost again at home. Okay, City's a tough match, but they should be getting results in these sort of games to pick up for their poor away form. I think they had a few late chances towards the end. Jamie Young did save City there. But City win again, Perth lose again, so not looking good for them. Then it was Wellington Phoenix 0, Newcastle Jets 3. Definitely the surprise result of the rounds. Stamatolopoulos scoring again, twice. Taylor as well, young Taylor getting on the score sheet, 3-0. Crazy result, especially at home for the Phoenix. Undefeated. And Newcastle of all teams, and 3-0. So a few shocks within the result of itself. Especially the Phoenix defensive record. To get conceded 3 at home, Paulson in goal is probably the keeper of the season so far, saving 2 penalties, and he gets 3 conceded. So a very surprise result there, but this is the A-League, which we love. It's very even, and anyone can win on any day. Sydney FC 0, MacArthur FC 2. This one was a bit of a surprise for me too. I know MacArthur have been playing well, but I thought Sydney would be back, especially at home. I mean, with the red card from Redmayne early on doesn't help. Pavlicic having to come on. Holman scoring again, and Germain as well. 2-0. I think Sydney FC, though, were the better team despite the 10 men. I mean, if they had not get that red card, it's hard to say what could have happened, but surely they would have got a result at least. But a win for MacArthur again, so great little patch of form for them. Adelaide United 2, Brisbane Roar 0. Adelaide United 0, Brisbane Roar 2. I also got that one mixed up because I did expect Adelaide to win, although Brisbane have been playing well. Lofthouse and O'Shea from the spot early in the second half. Disappointing by Adelaide as well now. 2 losses in a row after the good start. But Brisbane Roar, great result for them. And finally, another crazy game. Western Sydney Wanderers 3, Melbourne Victory 4. Fornaroli with all 4 goals. Unbelievable. Another 4-goal haul. 2 in his 7 matches to start the season. Not all in the first half this time, but nevertheless, crazy by him. Antonsen with 2, 1 from the spot, and then Valentin Uel also scoring late. He also got the assist as well, so a good little cameo from him coming off the bench. Another crazy game. I thought Victory had it wrapped up, especially when it went to 4-1. Wanderers obviously pushing and attacking, getting 2 late goals. Not really a nervy ending. They didn't really do anything in the last 7 minutes of injury time. But Victory holding on. Undefeated, breaking that draw streak with finally getting a win. So a great result for them. Let's take a look at the table. So it is MacArthur FC on top. 4 wins, 3 draws. No losses yet, 15 points. On top. It's very tight though. They're 1 point clear of Brisbane Roar and Phoenix, both on 14. Raw in a bit more form, undefeated in 4. Phoenix with that loss, of course, but still playing well. Victory as well, undefeated, 3 wins, 4 draws. 13 points in 4th place. Wanderers 5th with 12 points after that loss. Adelaide United, as I said, dropping in form. That's 3 losses in the last 4 matches now. 10 points, along with City, a couple of wins in a row, making up their goal difference. Still -3, but getting there. Jets with a win, up to 8 points. Then it's 9th, the Mariners, again undefeated in the last 3, especially after losing the first 4, 7 points. Sydney FC down there, loss, win, loss, so very inconsistent. Again, expected with Tyler coming in, but I'm sure they will pick it up soon. And then at the bottom, Glory, 4 points. As expected, 4 losses in a row, so very disappointing for them. And, well, even worse is Western United now. 6 losses in a row, only 3 goals scored, which is just crazy bad. Have not scored. Okay, no, they scored a few weeks ago, but a lot of nils in there, as you can expect, only 3 goals, because they did score 2 in the first week. So, only 1 goal in their last 6 matches. let's take a look at the top scorers. I think Fornaroli now is up to 11 goals, which is unbelievable. 2 4-goal hauls in those 7 matches. So 3 goals in the other few matches. I think he blanked a couple of games. And Stamatolopoulos also scoring 2 goals as well again. So he's up to 6. He did miss 1 match as well, though. So 11 and 6. Those 2 clearing ahead. Then there's a logjam of players on 4. I'll just go through a few of them. Clough, McLaren, Taggart, Zavada, and Antonsen all on 4 goals. And then the rest on 3 and all that. So, well, yeah, Fornaroli is the main standout, and obviously a lot of the talking point regarding him in the Asian Cup. I probably will discuss that in the next podcast or the one after that when we're getting closer to the squad announcement, if not the squad already being announced. Interesting to see if he gets selected in this form. There's a couple of penalties in there, I think, but still some fantastic goals. Tap-ins, worldies, headers, so he's doing it all. So it'll be very, very interesting to see what happens, especially with Borrello out injured. Him and McLaren. McLaren doing okay-ish, 4 goals this season. I mean, he has higher standards, but still, 4 goals is alright for him in a sort of underperforming City side. But we will see when that squad gets announced soonish. I think it's around Christmas time. We'll see who gets picked. But that's it for the A-League. We will now move on to Asia. Before we go to Asia, let's do some fantasy and tipping. So, I am currently now ranked 438. I think that's a little bit up. Again, there were 2 weeks to cover. I might just do last week mainly, and because I can't see the stats from last week anyway, or at least the individual change stats. 100 points this week, so a bit above my average of 96. The round rank, though, was only 1,671st, so I think I was in a great week. 100 is my bare minimum that I try to reach. So I don't think it was that high. Let's have a look at the points. So Paulson finally a bad game. He got -1, which does hurt his average. He still went up in value, but they did lose 3-0, so that is expected. Tate Russell also 1 point. I think he came off early in the second half as well, and already had conceded 2 goals, so not much from him, and he's been doing so well. Popovic didn't play. Talbot 4 points. I mean, at least he's not negative anymore. Nicolau got 12 points. I've had him on the bench, though, expecting Sydney FC to score. And then Docker as well. He keeps coming on very late in the match. He somehow seems to get 3 or 4 points. Not a lot, but in his 5-10 minutes he plays, it's quite a lot. So I don't know what he's doing so well there. Zach Clother had captain. Only 9 points. His lowest for the season. He's always getting above 10. So disappointing there. They didn't score, obviously, but still to get 9 points without scoring, I'm happy with that. Jay O'Shea does that a lot as well. I mean, he scored this week and got 22 points, but even when he doesn't score or assist, he seems to be getting nearly 10 points. So those two are essential, even at that high price. Arslan, 21 points. Great, scoring a goal. Altai only 3, and Danzaki only 3. Again, I keep saying I'm going to get rid of him, and I just don't have any cheap options coming up. I'd like some sort of cheaper, younger player coming through who's played a few matches and is going to go up in value, but there aren't a many around. I'll check again in case someone else has popped up. Tullio finally starting to work it all out. 21 points, another goal and assist. Well, actually, first goal, but another assist. McLaren only 3 points. Usually my go-to captain, so I'm glad I didn't pick him. And then Gomez, 5 points. Also disappointing. I'm very tempted to sell him off. Honestly, I really feel like I might have to do that soon as well, or one of those cheaper defenders or midfielders. Let's look at the total. Fornaroli back up on top. He's got 37 points with his 4-goal haul, averaging 16.7. He's back on top over Clough just by 3 points. O'Shea as well in third with 104. Those are the only 3 players who have cracked the 100 mark. Joe Lolly went down. I did want to get him the other week, but I thought he actually was a midfielder. and I didn't want to get rid of him in my forwards. I'd love to get him in for Gomez. It's a big price difference though, so I really have to downgrade someone else. I don't have enough in the bank. And he went down, which is good. 47k down. Still at nearly 600 though. Mile Jusnic though, also playing very well. Clayton Taylor, I can't believe I got rid of him a couple of weeks ago. He just hadn't scored in a while. Big score, 23 points. Paulson -1. Caltac now up to 8th place in total, 33 points. Massive score, goal, clean sheet. Halloran and Payne rounding out the top 10. Payne actually went up despite getting 3 points because Clisby got -5. Let's see who went up most in value this week. It was Angel Torres. He went up 107 after 20 points. Fornaroli up again as expected. Germain, Caltac and Hall all up. I did look at Hall, but I was never going to get him. I just glanced at him quickly, but 29 points would have been great. So quite a few players going up. There's a lot of big scores this week. Quite a few goals. Who's gone down in value now? Maybe someone tempting to bring someone like a Zavar. He's down 113k this week. Slowly come. He should be back fully from injury. That's a huge drop. That'll be tempting at that price. He might go down again. He has had a couple of lower scores in the last 2 weeks. Clisby -5. He's down to 407. McLaren is cheap, 339. I've already got him though. So quite a few players have gone down. No one really tempting though. Khalifi's so cheap. I mean, he's only got 8 points in total. He's gone down 150 in total. That's unbelievable. And Lolly as well, as we mentioned. So I'll have to think about it. This week I will do the transfers on Friday as always. I will have to get rid of one of these midfielders, Altai and Danzaki. They have not done anything all season. I know they're cheap. Altai went up actually. I've got to get rid of him now. As for the defenders, Popovic hopefully isn't out too long. And then Docker, as I said, just always coming on late. He's just not enough. And I think Gomez, I'm going to have to look at those 4 players for next week. Because they're just not pulling their weight. I know they're cheap, but at least go up in value if you're going to be cheap, and they're not doing that either. So I'll have to look at getting one of those, but we'll do that later in the week. As for the tipping, I think we'll go through round 6 quickly. I managed to get 4 right. I got the Brisbane Roar Wanderers game wrong. I said the Wanderers would win. That was a draw. And I said Adelaide would beat Macarthur, but Macarthur won 4-3. Last week I only got 2 points. I started off well. I got the Mariners right and the City game right, and then the rest I got all wrong. Went for the Phoenix, Sydney, draw between the Roar and Adelaide, and the Wanderers to beat Victory. So I got all those wrong. I'll do a quick little tipping and preview now. So Friday, Amy Park, 6 p.m. that one. I would like to go to that game, but I do finish work at 5 and I am pretty close to the ground, but we'll see. I'm going to go Brisbane Roar to win that one. And then 7:45, so almost overlapping by 5 minutes or so in that match. Wanderers at home to Adelaide. I have to go Wanderers at home. We'll just put a 1-goal margin. I think they should bounce back the runners after their first loss. Adelaide United in a bit of poor form. They are a good side, but I think the Wanderers will get that. And, well, Brisbane will definitely over the Western United, let alone if they can even score a goal, Western. Saturday at 6 p.m, the Jets at home to Glory. Well, especially with the Jets' recent win, and as we mentioned, Perth's poor form, I don't think I'm ever going to tip them away from home for the whole season unless they pick it up or they're playing Western. Newcastle Jets for me. Victory at home to Sydney this week. I'm definitely got to go to that match. I am going to actually put it for a draw. It's a big blue. The form sort of goes out the window in these sort of matches. I would pick Victory, but I'm actually going to go safe choice and pick a draw. Then at Amy Park again. It's 3 matches this weekend at Amy Park. City at home to the Mariners. I'm going to go City only because it's at home, but that would be a great game. As I said, both picking up in a bit of form, and the Mariners especially, so that'll be a very good game. I think the City group will win that one. Oh, and Monday night again, it is MacArthur and Wellington. I think I'm going to have to go MacArthur. Again, that Phoenix loss at home puts me off a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a draw. I am tempted to put a draw. I'm going to put MacArthur FC just for now. I can change it later, obviously. But I think I'll go MacArthur at home in that one. So that's it for the A-League and fantasy and tipping. We will now move on to Asia. So let's start with Asia in Japan. Now, this is going to be a quick little season recap. It's not going to be any full analysis or tactics or anything like that. Just a quick review of the season, especially for those of you who don't follow the J-League or any of these other leagues. Next season, I will try and do a bit more analysis, a bigger preview, weekly info, and a big season recap. But for now, it's just going to be the basics, just to give you an idea of what happened in 2023 in Japan and the other countries around Asia. So Vissel Kobe winning their first championship title, 71 points over Kevin Muscat's Yokohama Marinos, 64 points. They did win it with 2 matches to spare. I think the Marinos lost in the last 2 games after they gave up. Top 2 go to the AFC Champions League Elite, the new top tier for Asia. I will go in through that as well later. Third place, Sanfrecce Hiroshima, going to the AFC Champions League 2 group stage, which is the second tier for AFC, sort of like the AFC Cup revamp. And also Kawasaki Frontale are going to the Champions League Elite as they won the Emperor's Cup. They beat Kashiwa Reysol on penalties just a few days ago, actually, which I may go into a little bit later. And at the bottom, 18th place, Yokohama FC relegated, 29 points. They go back down to J2 for next season. Disappointing for them, or disappointing for both teams of Yokohama. One missing out on the title and one getting relegated. So that was the table. Anything else I'd like to go through? Again, it's just basic. Top scorers, Anderson Lopez and Osako, both on 22 goals for the top 2 sides. Kasper Juncker for Nagoya, 16 goals. So the J-League has a lot of Brazilians playing in this league, and they do get on the score sheet a lot. It's usually attacking players. They do have some others. So it's a good mix of Brazil and Japanese, a few other foreigners. Another interesting thing I love seeing, especially in these leagues, is the attendances. Now, the J-League is a great attendance league. It could be higher, but when you do compare it, around to Asia, they are the top one. China used to be up there. They're still pretty decent, but they have dropped off recently, especially since COVID. Japan did drop off from COVID as well. I mean, the whole world did. But they're slowly coming back. Euro Red Diamonds averaging 30,500 per week, which is amazing. I do like to look at, if you can see this as on the Videocast, of course, you can watch this. But it's just a table of the attendances, and it shows the capacity full of the stadium, which is another thing I like to check, especially me who likes to travel and go to grounds around the world, a bit of a ground hopping. 30,000 looks much better in a 30,000 stadium as opposed to a 60,000 stadium, like this Euro Red one. They are 63,000 capacity. Not saying it's bad, but then you'll see a lot of empty seats. And I actually do prefer ranking by capacity. Now I know there's other factors in that. So when I rank by capacity full, Shannon Belmare, only 13,000 average, but their capacity is 16,000. So to me that looks great. And we talk about this a lot in the A-League regarding how it looks visually on the TV. And again, it's a smaller stadium. I think the atmosphere is a bit more packed in. I'll do this, as I said, for a season preview, because a lot of the Japanese stadiums do have athletics tracks and they're open air, and I think it's not as good for acoustic-wise and atmosphere-wise. I will check that later on and do that for the season preview next season. But something like that Belmare with an 84% capacity would look much better than a team that has a little bit more in attendance. So, for example, up to 20,000, but they're playing out of a 50,000 seater. To me personally, of course. So just looking at ones that are a bit bigger. So Kashima Antlers, 22,000, but that's in a 41,000 stadium. So only 54% capacity. Couple that with athletics track. To me, visually and atmospherically as well, it isn't as great. So when I did go to Japan a few years ago, I did only pick matches that were in sort of football-specific ones, rectangular ones, and ideally ones with bigger crowds. Not big crowd doesn't always mean better atmosphere. Depends on the match, depends on many other factors, of course. That's just something I like looking at in all the other leagues. I know it's a big thing. Everyone talks about crowds. It doesn't make or break the thing, but it does have an importance in the league. Money-wise, visual-wise. Again, it would capture a lot of people to see a nice, bustling, full stadium, even though it is small, as opposed to big, empty ones. I think you'd just be less tempted to go. So, again, some big crowds. Overall, 19,000 average for the J1 League, which is great. So, another good season of the J League. I think we can move on to J2 now. So the J2 League, we had 2 teams automatically promoted, Machida Zelvia and Jubilo Iwata. And then 3rd to 6th played off, similar to the English Championship 2nd Division in England. They play off for the one final spot, 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5, 2 winners playing in the final, and that was Tokyo Verdy, who go up for the first time in a while, 15 years or so, I believe. So they are back up. Another team from Tokyo. So we'll go to the relegation. Two teams went down. Kanazawa and Omiya Ardija. Now, they were down a few weeks ago. It was just confirmed a few weeks ago, but official, obviously, on the final day. They go to J3. 2 go down and 3 went up. Only 1 went down from J1, so they are reshuffling the league. I think it's to have 20, 20, and 20, because currently it's 18, 22, and 20, or 22. 20 in J3, yeah. So now it's going to be a little bit rearranged. So in J1, now they're going to have 20. It's gone up from 18 to 20. 1 went down, 3 went up. And same with J3. They've lost a few more teams and they'll be down to 20. So 20, 20, and 20. A very nice structure in Japan, something we should aspire to. I know it's a bit different geographically, population-wise, culture and all that, but it's a great league. I think everyone should follow it. Let's have a look at some stats. Juanma Delgado scoring 26 goals for Nagasaki. 8 clear of Machida Zelvia's Eric with 18 points. So, a good season for that bloke. Let's move on to the attendances for J2. Shimizu S-Pulse, 14,000 average for J2, which is great. They're sort of a J1, J2 yo-yo team, but still fantastic. Even better than A-League Division 1 crowds, so definitely something to aspire to. Again, with the capacities, some are athletics tracks, some are not. They were the best attended one and the best capacity-wise, 70% full. Then you got some smaller ones, and these are really small, 3,500 out of a 5,600 ground for Iwaki. Still, I don't mind that. That's sort of like a Western United we're aiming for. I think 5,000, 6,000, or up to 8,000 for their stadium to have. Well, they have 3,000 and a half crowd. Probably less, but they might go up to that. That, as I said, I think is just much better than doing that in Amy Park. I think everyone agrees with that. Maybe 5,000 in Amy Park or 3,000 in West. Visually wise is a difference, but well, we'll see what that happens. That's going to happen hopefully early next year. So good attendances in J2 even. 70% full. A lot of the teams more than half. 5, 6 more than half. So fantastic for J2. We then move on to J3. The two promoted sides, Ehime and Kagoshima, both going up. Kagoshima just getting it on goal difference over Toyama. And down below, now usually the bottom side would actually get relegated to the 4th tier, and the second bottom side would have a playoff against the second best side. That wasn't the case this season because you do need a J-League license to get into the J-League. So J4 isn't, well, it's not really called J4, it's called JFL, Japanese Football League. That's not part of the J-League system. So only teams with licenses can come up. So if the top 2 teams do not have licenses, then nobody goes up. And that was the case this season. There was a team who just missed out, the 3rd place side. Shiga, I think. They they drew. They conceded very late on the final day to get into that 2nd position. They would have then had a playoff against, not the second bottom team, because that would be unfair on the 19th. It'd have to be against the 20th side, Hiravan's Kitakyushu, but that was not to be. So Kitakyushu survive. That was a team I actually did see play in Japan, and I actually saw them win the championship of the 3rd league 4 years ago now, pretty much around this time. At that beautiful home ground in Kitakyushu. It's right by the ocean, so right behind you you've got water, and then you just pan across and you got a little nice stadium. I think they did use it in the World Cup for some of the smaller matches. Great atmosphere for a J3 team. I will check the attendance figures now. Great fans behind the goals, full stadium. That was J3, top team J3 in final day, of course, but still an amazing atmosphere. Atmosphere-wise, they did get 4,000 this season, 15,000 capacity. So not a great capacity-wise. There's a team, Yamagata, 8,000 for J3. It's fantastic. A couple of teams of 5,000, 4,000. So again, beating A-League crowds, J-League 3. So that's great to see. Capacity-wise, Imabari was the best, 70% full. So 3.7 in a 5.3 ground. So that's an interesting one. I would like to check that one out. As I said, I'll do this in a proper preview next season. I'll be previewing teams, stadiums, other things to watch out for, especially if you're just getting into it. Like me too, I've been following it for a few years. Obviously, I went to Japan to see some matches. Not to see matches, but while I was there, I did see some matches. And I've been following it ever since through an interrupted COVID. Getting more into it this year and definitely more into it next year. So we'll move on to South Korea next. Alright, let's talk South Korean K-League. K-League 1. So they play 33 matches. They then split. It's very similar to Scotland. For the final 5 matches, the top 6 all play each other, and the bottom 6 all play each other in the championship group and the relegation group. Ulsan Hyundai won the title comfortably, 12 points clear of Pohang Steelers. Those top 2 both go to the AFC Champions League Elite League stage for next season. 2024-25. Third place Gwangju go to the AFC Champions League Elite playoff round, probably getting in. And Jeonbuk missing out on the top tier of Asian football for the first time in a while. They go to Asian Champions League 2. Disappointing season by them. Down at the bottom though, can't be more disappointing than Suwon Blue Wings, who get relegated for the first time. Probably one of the best Korean sides in history. 20 trophies in total, I think. They are down 10th and 11th. Played in the playoffs against the next best sides from the K-League 2, which we'll get into later, and they both won, so they both survive. Very lucky, thankfully, for the playoffs for them. Top goal scorers, Ju Min Kyu for Ulsan and Thiago for Daejeon, 17 goals each. Figure-wise, attendance-wise, not as big as the J-League. Probably a bit more similar to the A-League. On average, 10,000. Some of the bigger teams cracking 20, like Seoul. Again, out of a big stadium, so only 33% full. So yeah, their attendances aren't as strong, and they have a lot of big stadiums, especially because of the World Cup. There's a few smaller ones, and again, a few athletics tracks as well. Probably Daegu, the best capacity percentage-wise, 86%, so nearly 11,000 in a 12,000 seater, which clears everybody else. The next best is Pohang with 50% full, 8,000 out of 17. So that's a good one, and I would love to check that one out. As I said, I'll do a proper preview later on. So that's a quick review of the K-League 1. K-League 2, Gimcheon Sangmu, the Army team, they have been promoted. Busan Park missed out by 1 point and then lost in the playoffs, as I mentioned, in Suwon. A couple of late goals putting them out. They also considered late to actually miss out on automatic promotions. So very disappointing for them. And Gimpo, a small team out of Seoul, also missing out. That would have been the first time they got promoted. There's no relegation to K3. I think it's sort of a licensing thing as well. 3 and 4 have relegation between each other, but not between 2 and 3. But again, with a big preview next season, we will see how that goes. Top goal scorer, Luis Mina, Colombian for Gimpo, 16 goals. Let's take a quick look at the attendances as well. Now, this is lower. Second tier is not as strong, as I said, especially as it can compared to Japan. Only 3,600 is the top one from Seoul Eland, Busan 3.5. Capacity-wise, they do play in big stadiums as well. Not very high at all. 43% is the best for Gimpo. That's a tiny stadium. I did check that one out because I wanted to see if they would get promoted for the first time. Only 2,000 out of 5,000. Still a fun little league to watch, especially if you're into the J-League. K-League would be a nice one to follow, especially for Australian teams in the Asian Champions League. It's always good to follow these other leagues that are the top in Asia. Learn about some players, especially when it comes to the national team as well. So it is a good little league to watch. Let's move on finally just to the Singapore Cup final. Sorry. And finally, let's finish off with the Singapore Cup. Not the biggest tournament in Asia, of course, but I do like to go through every league, or at least the top 10 leagues there. Anything that's happened over the last couple of weeks. Singapore Cup, very small, I think only 8 or 10 teams. Hugang beating DPMM in the semi-finals, 3-0 on aggregate. And Lion City defeating Tampines 6-3 on aggregate to make it to the final. There was a third place playoff, Tampines beating DPMM 2-0. And in the final, it was Lion City Sailors 3, Hugang 1. So, the Lion City, they scored the first 3, a late consolation goal for Hugang. Obviously, I didn't watch this, but I am following it. Looks like a comfortable win for Lion City. They are the dominant team in Singapore. That is their 6th Singapore Cup now. First one under this name and new ownership. They used to be known as one of the more generic names, putting Western United to shame, as Home United FC. Now they are rebranded as Lion City Sailors. 6th title in total. 6th cup, first with the new name. Bailey Wright actually plays for this club, and he was playing in the cup there. So a title for him. And the Lion City Sailors now actually qualify for the Asian Champions League 2 qualifying round. So a chance to play against an Australian side, Sydney FC, I believe, if we get to that, but that's well on into the future. So that's it for this week. As I said, I do cover a lot of the Asian leagues. I will try and do another podcast before Christmas, covering the A-League, of course. Full recap of the Asian Champions League and AFC Cup will be done by then. Maybe a little bit of an Asian Cup preview. If not, then very early next year. But anything else in the world of football for Australia or Asia in the next couple of weeks, I will be covering. So until then, I'll see you guys in the next podcast.